Shri Gurubhyo Namaha, Harihi Om. I'm so happy to connect back with all the viewers once again. I'm Santosh, and on behalf of MFI, I welcome all of you to 124th workshop. So before we proceed, I just want to have a quick recap on the kind of topics that we touched upon previously. We spoke about the 9 tenets of Madhva philosophy, where we spoke about the critical aspects or the 9 aspects of the Madhvacharya philosophy. From there, we started knowing about who is God. So, what is uh, the unique uh, relationship that we have between us and God? From there, we went to the self-discovery mode where we asked, "Who am I?" So, we started knowing about ourselves, what's our purpose, and our identity. From there, we touched upon a very key topic, which was knowing what's purpose of our life, which was our previous topic. So I sincerely urge all the viewers to, go back and look at all the content that we have produced till now on the channel, which is Madhvacharya for Youth. And I'm sure this will add real value to your life. And today's topic, as you know, is about how to achieve one purpose. So this is a concluding session where we'll be talking about the practical, aspects on how to achieve one's purpose. So in our previous topic, we spoke about the defining aspect. So where we defined what is the purpose. From there, we spoke about how to find that or the charting the path, where we plotted the 5 aspects to identify our purpose. From there, and today we'll be looking at how to pursue it and having a role model like Guru in our life to identify this purpose. Right. So with this context in place, so let's begin our session by introducing our speaker, Mr. Sunder Madakshira. Sundar is currently working at Adobe as head of marketing and also has been mentored by well-known scholars like Shri Prabhanjanacharya and Shri Kanthacharya. So I request all the viewers to actively participate because since it's a concluding sessions, we want to answer as many as questions as possible, and to make this a very interactive sessions. Right. So as we chat, please keep your questions ready. Please keep posting your comments on the comment section so that we can pick up these questions and answer them. So I request, please let's make this session as interactive as possible. So with this, let's begin. Hi Sundar, welcome.
Namaskara. Namaskara, Santosh.
Namaskar,
Um,
Sundar.
Thanks for, I think, setting a beautiful context to what we have, why we are here today, and what we want to achieve today in this workshop. So, it has been, as you have rightly pointed out, about 10 workshops ago, if I may say, which was roughly 10 months ago, we saw a lot of requests coming to us on how we can cover the topics of Brahma Sutras, what is said in our Vedas, and those aspects. What we thought, therefore, was that we will probably pick up something like the Vedas as the central point of whatever we want to discuss and present the framework in which we should understand the Vedas, which is the Brahma Sutras. Brahma Sutras offer a framework to understand the Vedas. And of course, if you see very carefully, all the topics that we have been selecting since then are all offshoots of what Brahma Sutras, the Upanishads, and Mahabharata Tatparnyarnaya and Mahabharata itself. They all offer those, right? So you will, of course, not see many quotations, etc., that we use from that place because we want to keep it very straightforward and simple. And it is more like giving an introduction. And in the subsequent workshops, we will go into greater depth about the topics that are there in these areas. But what we are covering today and what we have covered in the last few workshops is a summary of what is actually purported in the Brahma Sutras. That is a very important
Right.
point that I wanted to make. So all this is
Right.
coming from understanding of Brahma Sutra Bhashya. That's a commentary written on Brahma Sutra by various um, scholars and saints, as well as the commentaries written on Brahma Sutra Bhashya itself. And
Right.
that is one part. Then there is a Mahabharata, which is again a reservoir of knowledge. And Madhvacharya has called it the Panchama Veda, giving it the status of a Veda because it's so comprehensive in its understanding of how this is how this is getting covered. So it is this is something that it is inbuilt in the way we are looking at the topic of the Vedas. So coming to today's workshop, that is, we are going to be talking about how to achieve one's purpose. Yeah. Santosh, are you there?
Yes, Sunder. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, Santosh.
So like you could slightly pull your screen a bit because we can see more of you. Now it's slightly cutting, so I
Okay, is it better
little
now?
more. Yeah, this is better.
Okay, great.
Right.
Thanks for that, Santosh. Yeah. So, so let us dive into today's topic, which is how does one achieve one's purpose? How does it get to one's purpose in life? So, before that, we will go into what we covered two workshops back, which is who am I, and why are we doing it? Because it's a flow, it's a trilogy, as we said it. And I also want to present it to people who might not have attended the earlier workshops. What we're going to talk about today is going to be dependent on what is our understanding of who we are in the first place. So we could dive into the PPT.
Right.
Yeah. So what we said about who am I was that our being, whoever we are, right, is broken into several phases, which is soul. There is the mind, there is the ego, there is a brain, and there is a body, right? So whenever we refer to ourselves, we typically look at ourselves as a body. So this is who we are. Look at me, this is me. But then we realize, okay, it's not just the body, there is something else to, there's something more intrinsic. And the Gita very clearly says that even when the body is gone, we are still alive. So how are we alive? The body is alive. That means we are different from the body. Then we say, are we our brain, which is our intellect? We are what we are because of a certain intellect that we have. That is also not true, because there are many times when we our behavior is dictated not by intellect or intellect alone, but by some other aspect. So we are not the body, we are also not the brain. Then there is a ego. Ego is a state where we are looking at ourselves with a facade. There is a covering, there is a security that we get from all the thoughts that we have. That is called the ego. And then we have the mind. Now, what is this mind? Is it the brain? Is it the heart? The science has never been able to talk about what is the mind, but it's a collective thinking, collective understanding of everything that comes together, which is our mind. And many times it's our mind which dictates what we should be thinking and what should we should be doing. So mind is also different from us. So therefore we finally come to the conclusion, when you read all virtually every literature in the world, it all pinpoints to only one thing: we at the base are nothing but a soul. We are a jiva, as it is called. So I am the soul is the final realization that we all come to when we ponder about it, right? So some of you might say, okay, no, I've not thought about it. If you've not thought about it, you can always think about it, and you will probably come to the conclusion that there is something within us which is finally there, and that is the one which actually creates and dictates all our actions. So that is the soul, that we are. So we are nothing but the soul. Outer, we have several layers over and over above the soul, which is more what makes us what we are. Now, there is an important aspect that we need to know about the soul, and this is something which we have to rely upon our scriptures to tell us what it is. But I will come to a very practical interpretation of that in a minute. So whenever you're looking at the scriptures, they clearly say that the jiva or the soul is anandamaya. That means it is something, the jiva, the nature of the soul is to be happy. We all like to be happy, right? So this is what the scriptures say. But is it our daily experience? Yes, of course. It is our daily experience. Every single day, we all wake up in the morning yearning to be happy, isn't it? Is there anyone who wakes up in the morning thinking, I don't want to be happy today, or I don't mind a little bit of soul, a little bit of sorrow? I don't want. I can be okay. I can have some sadness. No, we want only happiness and no sadness at all, no sorrow at all. That is the state in which the soul always wants to be, right? And the soul by nature is full of the happiness or bliss, as we call it. But then if we might think, when if that is the case, how come we are still stuck with sorrow? We don't feel happy all the time. In fact, most of the time we are in a state of mixed feelings. Either we are happy, or we are very few times we can say that we're truly happy in our lives. There is always some kind of a sorrow, unhappiness, which is attached to our state of, our state of happiness. That means there is sorrow, there is misery, there are drawbacks, there is anxieties, there is nervousness always attached to our being. So, therefore, the true nature of the soul, which is to be eternally happy, is not satisfied. So, why does that happen? That happens because we have created layers and layers of lack of knowledge, that is ajnana, as it's called, which is what is making us feel unhappy all the time. A person who is spiritually enlightened, a person who's got even a spiritual outlook towards life, will not become sorrowful, will not be unhappy. He will view everything from a spiritual lens, develop a spiritual perspective to whatever happens in his life. So, therefore, which always keeps him happy, irrespective of what happens around us. And this is a very important aspect that we all have to note, that our happiness largely lies in our hands. It lies in the way we act, the way we think. And therefore, our scriptures always, you know, sort of prod us to move towards that state of happiness all the time. So there is a question that one of the participants is asking now, which is: a lot of pain comes in life. This acts as a huge hurdle to achieve one purpose. Definitely, yes. When we are attacked by sorrow, when we are attacked by some kind of unhappiness, some kind of anxiety, it just definitely comes in the way of what we want to achieve, right? So let us say you want to sit and write a nice essay. I'm just picking up an activity, and then when you start doing it, and that's what gives you happiness, and in your mind for some reason there is a lot of unhappiness. It could be some kind of a disease that you have, or you're not keeping well, or there is some anxiety which is worrying you about your professional life or your personal life. Does it not pull you down? Definitely it does. But the spiritual way of looking at it is very different, and that is what our shastras always talk about. That is why all these, the characters who are mentioned in our shastras, they all serve as examples, not as people who have just seen happiness, but who have experienced sorrow that none of us can even imagine. Look at the Pandavas, look at the great people like Prahalada and Dhruva, and our great gurus like Sri Raghavendra Swamiji, Sri Vijay Dasru. All of them went through enormous amount of difficulties and challenges in their lives, and they overcame them because of a spiritual outlook in life. So being spiritual is a certain mindset that you need to have, from where, even when there are difficulties and challenges, you will still be keeping steadfast to achieve your goal. So no matter what happens, if you have that equanimity in you, and of course it takes practice to to get to that, it is one will definitely achieve one's goal despite the challenges. There is absolutely no goal in this world, no purpose in this world, which can be achieved without you facing challenges. Every human being in this world has challenges of their own. That is why we are called jivas. We are souls. We are not Paramatma or God, who is completely free of these challenges. So the challenges should not deter us. On the contrary, we should be looking at them as opportunities on which we can overcome, and we can achieve our purpose. So let us make the challenges like a springboard rather than something that's going to pull us down. So this is who am I. So therefore, the conclusion is, who am I? I am the soul, and my basic nature is to be happy, is to be in that state of bliss. Right? So that's the first thing that we wanted to see about in today's session, which is who am I? And that's how we have defined it. So Santosh, if you could go to the next one, saying, okay, if I am, I'm a soul, I'm a jiva. Everybody has a question in their mind saying, what am I doing in this world? Right? When we are born as children, our parents teach us certain things. So our purpose therefore becomes to learn whatever is happening, right from the way we walk, the way we talk, the way we get to know people, and start to play, start to create, start to sing, dance, whatever we are taught, we will start learning, and then we are put into a class, we are put into a school, and in the school again people will start to teaching us. We will slowly start to learn many things in our life. So then we are told, okay, go to a school, learn well. If you learn, study well, you'll get a very good job, and then you can be happy all your life. So we all work very hard. We then get into take up a good job, and then they say, okay, once you've got a job, you should get married and you should have a family. So we do that as well. And but at each stage, you see that there is a new thing which is coming up, a new objective which is coming up, and you begin to wonder, what are you really doing? What is my purpose in life? What is it that I can learn, and where am I going? Every day I'm moving from solving one challenge, one problem to another problem. Am I going to get there finally? At the end of it, am I going to feel happy at all? Is the question that I think comes to all our minds. So therefore, at that time, what we need to do is that we need to have a purpose. And what is the purpose of purpose? Why have purpose? Because whether we say it or not, our mind always wants a purpose. Nobody can lead a purposeless life. We may think, oh, it's okay, just be happy, do whatever you want. Many people believe that, but unfortunately, as we have seen, that is not the nature of our soul. We are intelligent human beings. We are people who have come here with a lot of capabilities, and we definitely want to use those capabilities to achieve something in our life, which can give us happiness. Again, coming back to the topic of happiness. So our mind, whether we want it or not, our soul, whether we want it or not, will always be wanting a purpose that we are living. I live in this world because of these things. So now, again, what is the difference? We have been told we have goals and we have purpose. The difference between the goal and the purpose is that the purpose does not need external motivation. Purpose is something that you are driven with. You want to do it because you want to do it, and that gives you your happiness. It is different from day to day topics, day to day issues, and day to day goals that we set for ourselves. It could be materialist. For example, I want to get a job. I want to get be a medical student. I want to be a lawyer. All these are individual goals that we have set for ourselves. They come, they have a relevance, we work towards it. Once it is achieved, we move on. If we don't achieve, we find a fresh goal and move on. But purpose is something which largely stays stationary, and it's something that's fixed. Can it change? Of course it can change and evolve, but it doesn't change that frequently. The second difference is purpose is spiritual in nature. There is a spiritual bliss, there is a happiness, and there is a feeling of gratification which is felt at the highest level when you, even when you move towards that purpose. You may never achieve that purpose, but every step that you take towards achieving that purpose gives you that sense of gratification. So that is what is called purpose. That's a difference between purpose and a goal. The third one is on North Star, what we call as North Star. In the Puranic literature, this is called Dhruvatara. Dhruvatara means something which is static. It is always in the north, as we know, and it is something which always guides us. In the olden days, the ships were all guided by the North Star. It would always tell them where to go. So we also have to have a North Star for ourselves. So that is called the Dhruva Nakshatra. And the story of Dhruva, who then became a star, is a classic example about what that Dhruva is. Because what we'll get a learning as a learning from the story is that no matter what the obstacles are, we will move towards achieving that purpose. Dhruva was 5 years old when he went on a spiritual quest, which was of the highest order, which was to actually have the darshan of Lord Narayana. He didn't have the wherewithal. We were talking about challenges and difficulties. He did not have anybody to guide him. He did not even know what to do. But at all these stages, he got help from God and he could achieve his purpose. That is why we call it the North Star. Even today, it's called the Dhruva Nakshatra. Um, so whenever you look at the purpose, it gives us that state of eternal happiness, happiness which is long lasting, which is very deep, which is very fundamental. That happiness is different from eating maybe your favorite dish, or watching a favorite movie of yours, or reading a favorite book. All of them definitely, they help us achieve some happiness, but they don't give us bliss, right? There will be those moments in your life, and I'm sure each one of you will have your own moments that even for a few seconds you experience that bliss in your life. So bliss comes from within. It is not something comes from outside. It is a very, very important part, because if you see, and you can go back and validate this for yourself, 99% of our effort is focused on getting happiness from external sources, not internal sources, not within us. External. External means I get happiness because I watch a movie. So it is external. It's not within you. The movie is not within you. It's outside you. You say, okay, I will get some happiness if I go and go to a resort. People spend today billions of dollars. Is the travel and leisure industry, as it's being called, wellness industry, runs into billions of dollars across the world today. Why? People want to feel good. They want to feel well, and they spend money and they go outside. But the fact is, no matter where you go and what you do, the ultimate realization of happiness has to come from within. And many of us would have your own experiences where you said, no, if I go to this place and live there in that country, or go to this beautiful exotic destination for a vacation, I'm done. That is great for me. I will then be very, very happy. And now what happens after some time? You can spend some time, and when you come back, you say, it was great there, but while I was coming back, I was feeling the pain of having to come back to where I belong to. And that is probably the end of that happiness. But imagine if there was a way in which you could realize that happiness wherever you are. Is that possible? Yes, it is possible if you have a spiritual bent of mind. Because if you have a spiritual bent of mind, you know that you have your inner resources, in your inner thinking, to be able to give you that happiness. So you will quickly switch on to those inner resources and look at the presence of God within you, who is Anandamaya, who will give you infinite happiness and bliss like no one else, right? All of us have had some spiritual experience. We go and stand in the queue for hours together to have a few moments of darshan in Tirupati. I've given that example before. We wait for so long, but then what happens? In a moment, you see the God, and that entire stress, strain, and fatigue that one has experienced just disappears in one's life. Similarly, one wakes up in the morning, has a good clean bath, sits in front of the God and meditates upon him without any paraphernalia, without anybody looking at him. He's just doing it because he wants to attain that bliss. Now imagine, what does it cost us? Where do we have to go? What do we have to buy? How much money do we have to spend? How much time? Nothing. It's all zero. We just have to sit in a straight position and meditate upon God. That's all we need to do. And but why don't we do that? Because we do not have the spiritual inclination, or we don't know that that is what is going to give us the spiritual happiness. We are looking for external ways. So this bliss is not internal. This bliss is always external for us. However, in reality, it is something which is always residing within us, and we have to have that way of tapping that and getting it out. And that journey is the spiritual journey that our scriptures always prod us to take into. So um, so to know and to know and pray to God is that state of bliss, right? To really understand God and to pray to Him after knowing who He is, right, is what will give us that state of bliss. And that is the spiritual purpose that all our scriptures in various forms and formats, they actually tell us. So there's a question here which says, what is the purpose of a tamasic soul? What is the definition of moksha for a tamasic soul? So here the answer is, what is the purpose of a tamasic soul? Is to be in a state of permanent darkness and mithya gnana, or incorrect knowledge. The tamasic soul always seeks incorrect knowledge, inaccurate knowledge, is in a state of confusion all the time. There is no sense of purity in whatever they do. No matter what is given to the tamasic soul, it will always veer towards saying, no, this is wrong. There must be another perspective, and this perspective is wrong. They'll keep veering towards what is inaccurate, which nobody has any experience of, nobody has ever told, none of the scriptures say. It'll keep veering towards that. And what is the definition of moksha for that tamasic soul is what we call as andhan tamas, which is the state of permanent darkness that they will go into. They were in a state of darkness here, and they will go into the state of the darkness there as well. So, will an externally dominated soul ever attain moksha? Will an externally dominated, I probably don't get the meaning, probably will take it in the,
It's called damnated.
okay. What, I'm sorry, I'm not able to follow what that means.
So will an externally damnated soul ever attain moksha? Please answer. So we say damnation, no?
Yeah. So is it, what does it mean? I'm sorry, I'm not able to get
I,
eternally.
I think it's a, I think it's the opposite of uh,
Sattvic.
sattvika. Yeah.
Yeah, so that's the same question. That's on tamasic. So the question is, yes, dominate ever attain moksha? Yes, he will attain moksha, but the definition of moksha for a tamasic soul is a state of permanent darkness, whereas for the sattvic soul or the positive soul is always a state of eternal bliss, or moksha as we call it. So here is so we'll move to the next stage. I think the next other questions are all um, connected with this. So I'll go through this. So which is the next question about how does one find one's purpose, right? It's a tough one. It's not that easy to find one's purpose. All of us are still on the journey, and the journey of finding the purpose itself is a very blissful activity by itself. So first thing I think one should do, this is a circle, so one can start from anywhere. But I think what is important is we should start with meditating upon ourselves, right? Very important. Have at least 10 minutes of meditation in the morning and 10 minutes in the meditation, at least, for you to get into the mode of thinking who you are and what you really want to achieve. In our mind, every single day, every single minute, we're always driven by thoughts. There are thoughts which keep coming to our minds, ideas we keep getting. We want to talk to people, we are always talking to ourselves, right? If one has to get into that state where he's pondering about something, giving it quality time, that can come only during a state of meditation. So again, it will take a few weeks for you to get into that state of total rest when you're getting into meditation. But if you do it every day for at least 2 to 3 weeks, I have seen your mind can start giving you answers about what you really want to achieve in your purpose. Now, that's the best part of the mind, that you do meditation only for 20 minutes a day, but your mind is in that state throughout the day, right? If you agitate your mind even for 2 minutes in a day, the whole day you will be in a state of agitation. This is our experience, correct? All of us know this. Let us say early in the morning you got up and you had some fight, or you've seen something very unpleasant. Somebody at office has written one very nasty mail. So that is enough to sort of key you up, right? And then you take the whole day to deal with that problem and that challenge. So ensure that you start with meditation. Second thing, and we will talk more about it, is the guru. Having a guru, a spiritual guru, a role model of sorts is very, very important. Since we're talking about it, I'll not talk much about it. It's important that you have a guru, and he has to be a spiritual guru. And then you the next thing you should do is to build a community around yourself, right? Have a set of friends. We have a large set of people who are subscribed for this workshop. Thousands of them would be attending this workshop, and many thousands will be watching it later. So if you have like-minded people who are there, you should connect with them. They could be your friends, they could be your colleagues, they could be your relatives, anybody, right? It could be your spouse, it could be your children, your parents, anybody. But they have to have that spiritual thinking in their mind, or at least the charter should be there. What happens when you are studying all this? You would have heard about all this. We all would always do something called the group studies, right? When we are preparing for an exam, all of us will come together and do a study in a group. What it really does is it helps each other. What one person knows well, he can teach it to somebody else, and so on and so forth. So that way you build a very good support system. So even when you're going off track for some reason, you can still come back to track, and your friends and your community will bring you back into that track. So that's the next thing that you have to start doing. One step after that is actually studying the scriptures. Now, why should one study the scriptures? Yeah, why should I study? All this should be some available somewhere, which I can read. Yes, it is definitely there, but there is no substitute to us reading the scriptures, the studying the scriptures, the Indian scriptures. So, what does Ramayana have to talk to us about? What does Mahabharata have to tell us? Is it a story of two sets of cousins fighting with each other? Definitely not. There must be something more. If Veda Vyasa, the Lord Vishnu himself, has come, the purpose cannot be to tell us some stories which anybody else could have told us. But what is the power? What is the message behind that story that we can learn in our spiritual quest is very important. So, therefore, even if it's limited, even if say 30 minutes a day, even if you're not able to read, at least you should listen to lectures given by great scholars and great masters and get an understanding of what our scriptures have to say, because our scriptures are a powerhouse and storehouse of knowledge which has been accumulated over thousands of years. If you read any, let us say you read any magazine or a journal or anything for that matter, what is the time that anybody has spent contemplating about it? Maybe some great researcher might have spent a lifetime, which means 50 years, 60 years. But look at these thoughts which have come to us from the Sanatana Dharma, from times immemorial, and it has got passed on generation to generation. Everybody had a relook at it. Imagine, it has not been accepted just like that. It has got questioned, and yet it has been found to be right. That means each generation which has come has enriched it with its own interpretation of what that is. So Mahabharata can have multiple interpretations. Mahabharata can have multiple lessons for us. If we know what it is, we can use it and we can deploy it in our life. Last thing we said was that journaling is very, very important, which is that, um, whenever we are looking at something like this, our thoughts are very, very precious. Why did some thought come to me? What thoughts came to me? After half an hour, if I ask you what call came to your mind will just go blank. You say, oh, I got something came, I forgot. So having a journal is very, very important, right? It is very important to write down whatever comes to your mind. So should one have a journal all the time writing it? Probably not a bad idea. But if you can't do that for whatever reason, because you're busy, so on, you should sit at the end of the day and collect your thoughts about what all went in your mind that particular day. You'll be surprised when you start writing what all actually crossed your mind at that time, and that journal itself will give you your purpose, because those thoughts which come every day, every week, every month are something which is moving towards defining what your purpose is going to be. So it's a very, very important aspect for us. So after 1 month, if I tell you what all has happened, you may forget, but you have a journal, you can always look back on your journal and say, what were the thoughts which are coming in my mind, and therefore help you make and identify that, this topic of what is my purpose. I had a friend, and like me, he also was a student of science in his class 11 and 12, and he had this very deep urge to be a doctor, but unfortunately, he could not afford being a doctor. He came from a fairly poor family, and they could not afford paying for his medical education. So he could not do it. He took up an engineering course instead. But I think a deep urge to serve humanity was very, very deep in him. I would always make that out. Even if we talk to him for 10 minutes, he will talk about how he can help people. So what he did was that after he finished his engineering, he again went back and pursued a course on medical electronics. And he said, no, I still want to be in the medical field. And as luck would have it, he did very well in that course. he was picked up by a company which actually manufactures neurosurgery equipment, right? And to be a person who can understand the equipment and also be able to sell that to a neurosurgeon, he had to do a neurosurgery course. That was the only way he could talk to a neurosurgeon. So the company then sponsored him to do an MBBS course and then a neurosurgery course. So he's a doctor, he's a medical professional, as well as a medical engineering graduate, a very unique combination. And he ultimately is now in the thick of the neurosurgery research in this world, leading, working with some of the greatest neurosurgeons, ensuring that surgeries get better and better and better every year and every time it's done, with the latest equipment and latest technology which has been there. So very unique story. But what it goes to say is that I think our purpose, through the process of writing this journal, like contemplating over it again, like it's like a churn in the circle that we showed you. I think that is what will give us our ultimate purpose. Now, once you have done this, I think the next slide, Santosh, would be is that, how do you charter the course towards that, achieving that purpose? So clearly, I think the first thing is, after you have got that purpose, you have to document it. It's very important that you write it, and I'm sure you've heard it at many places, that you have to put in black and white whatever has you have identified it your purpose, not just in the journal but also very very prominently, because it reiterates this, right? So if you go, for example, in our scriptures, it is clearly said, repeat the stotras, or you say japa. That means you repeat the same mantra shloka again and again. Why do we do that? We do that because we want to ensure that that topic is reiterated in our mind. The Gayatri Mantra, it reiterates the thoughts in our mind. Vishnu Sahasranama, it talks about the glories of the God again and again and again, because our mind has a very, very easy way of forgetting things. That's the nature of the human mind. We shouldn't be sitting and cursing it. It is just the nature. A lot of people get very upset when they are trying to do meditation and their mind keeps going away. We get very irritated. So, oh my God, I've tried so hard, but yet I'm not able to meditate. But instead of getting angry with yourself, just take it easy. You have to understand that the basic nature of the human mind is to get meditate, is to get distracted and shaken with every thought that you get. That's the nature. The Bhagavad Gita itself says, Arjuna says, chanchalam hi mana Krishna. He says, my mind is very very anxious. It is wavering. Krishna, what should I do? Imagine Arjuna, whom we always know is the epitome of concentration. Whenever we think about Arjuna, what do we know? That story of he keeping the bow and the arrow and looking only at the center of the eye of the bird is the person, is Arjuna. Imagine a person like that, who is known to be, who's symbolic of concentration, himself was not able to focus when his mind got anxious. So what can we say about people like us, right? So when you think about it, it is something which will keep moving you away from that. So have a documented and a written down purpose. So again, a question is always asked: can't a person's purpose change? Definitely, it can change, but it should be well thought out. Again, one has to go through this process again and again before establishing a second purpose, or maybe another purpose, or changing one's purpose, or refining one's purpose. Right? There is no harm changing it, but it has to be done carefully, because why we should be so worried about what our purpose is, because slowly and steadily, if we are serious about achieving that purpose, everything that we do will start moving us towards that direction. So imagine, you are, it is like I keep giving that example. You're driving from one place to the other, and you put that destination in your GPS system. Imagine you have entered the destination wrong. You, every minute, every second, you are moving in the wrong direction. So therefore, and then finally you will end up in that place and say, oh my God, I never wanted to be here. I wanted to be ending somewhere else, because you've entered the GPS thing wrong. That is the most important part of the journey. It is the entering the place, that is what is your destination. So therefore, you have to be careful in the way you arrive at a purpose. Yes, it might take some time, and you shouldn't get impatient about it, but over a period of time definitely we will get it. But the important thing for us to always focus upon it is to always document it. Yeah, Santosh, if you could get those points again, putting a time bound plan to achieve it, I think it's very important. Somehow when we are young, especially, or we are doing so many things in life, we say, yeah, I will achieve it. I want to study Madhva Shastra. I want to understand scriptures. I want to read Ramayana. I want to write a poem. I always wanted to write a book. We hear all these things. I always wanted to visit this beautiful place in Kanyakumari. See all the three seas merging with each other. Or I want to visit the Himalayas. It could be anything. But if we don't put a time bound plan to it, it will not get achieved, because a purpose is not a one leap. It has got several steps. It has got several milestones, so which are there. But one has to have a time bound plan to be able to reach that purpose, right? Suppose you're driving from here to Chennai, and each step, each after every 30 minutes, you should have reached some milestone. So you call people and say, where have you reached? You say, I've reached this place. Ah, okay, fine, good, that means you are on your way. Yeah, we are just passing by Kanchipuram. Okay, you are on your way. But after the 3 hours, if people say that you are in Malleshwaram, and assuming you are from Bangalore, that is, since we are all in Bangalore, or some of us are in Bangalore, we always think Bangalore is the center of gravity of the world. Not so. But wherever you're going, there has to be some milestones that we have to sort of set for ourselves and check whether we have achieved that milestone or not. That will help us pace ourselves, right? So if you have not achieved your milestone, you have to check whether first of all that milestone was right, and second, why have you not achieved it? What is coming in the way, and how do you overcome those obstacles, right? Then seeking the guidance of those who have trodden the path. It's very important. Don't try to always reinvent the wheel, as they say. It's not necessary that you have to do everything yourself. No, if you can rely on somebody else who can guide you, who has been through that, you will achieve more by learning from somebody else rather than trying to do everything on your own. See, I know in life there are people go for a trekking expedition, an adventure expedition, where you're going there, and you want things to be very unpredictable, and there's a wild side to it. But there are times when, for example, you have to go and write an examination in, let us say, in your life, at an examination center. Do you want adventure? No, 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 no. You don't want any adventure. What you want is, you want to reach on time. You want to reach well ahead of time. You want to know where you have to go. To be very precise. Some people go the previous day and check out how the venue. It's a great idea. Why? Because purpose is too important for us to be left to chance. So therefore, taking the guidance of people who have taken their path. Sometimes it could even be reading biographies. We read biographies of great people. Why do we do that? Because we want inspiration. We want to see what are the challenges that they have faced. When we read the life of Sri Raghavendra Swamiji, we get inspiration, because look at what he did and what he had to undergo in order to reach his purpose. And today, what are his qualifications? Pujyaya Raghavendraya Satyadharma Rataya Cha Bhajatam Kalparukshaya Namatam Kamadhenave. That is a two-line descriptor of how great he is. Why did that happen? Because never did he lose sight of what his purpose in life is. No matter what the challenges, no matter what the temptations, no matter what the obstacles, he overcame all of them because he was clear about the purpose, right? So when you know the destination, every the obstacles, you will somehow figure out a way to be able to do that. And for that, always rely on people who have already done that. And of course, setting realistic goals is very important. This I don't have to tell you this, but when you are on your journey, if you set unrealistic goals, it will lead to frustration. So when you say, okay, in the next 1 year I'm going to read 14 books on Madhva Shastra, I don't think that is a feasible thing, unless you are going to give up everything else and read only those 14 books. Maybe yes, then otherwise you have to see, okay, how much can I really achieve, and how can I accelerate? What do I need to accelerate? So for example, something I have planned for next 4 months, is there a way I can do it in 3 months? Can I rely on somebody who can teach me this faster? Can I have more number of classes? Can I do more on weekend? All that you can do. Can I even And same thing goes for meditation also, right? Some people, say, I tried meditation, but it is not working for me. How many days did you try? 3 days. Bad idea. Nobody will become an expert in 3 days. It takes time. It's about cultivating your mind. And I gave this example several times. It's like going to the gym. The first 1 week you will only have body aches. I know you will make a wow more that you will never enter a gym again. But after 1 week, slowly the pain starts coming down. You get comfortable. Similarly, your mental muscles, if there are anything like that, are also getting flexed during in your spiritual quest. You have to get comfortable being uncomfortable. It is a part of our journey. Anything that you need to do will take time, and your mind will not accept it straight away. You will go through difficulties, but once you start overcoming small hurdles every single day, do stretch it a little bit. Don't sit for a meditation, say I'm going to meditate for 3 hours. It's your mind will not be able to do it. You should start slow, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, 15 minutes, 20 minutes, and then slowly you will get to what is the optimal amount of meditation you should do. Lastly, and not the least at all, just because it's last, is the role of a guru in our spiritual quest. The role of a guru cannot be emphasized more. He is the person who's how important is a driver to a bus, how important is a pilot to an aircraft, is the importance that is there of a guru in our life. uh, Having the right guru is 99% success already for us. 1% is our work, because the guru will ensure, and even that 1% can be given up, because the guru will ensure that even that 1% that is there, he will make it happen. So therefore, it is very important to have a spiritual guide. So some people often ask, who is my spiritual guide? How will I find him? And so on and so forth. There are a lot of people who are great scholars who are in several spiritual centers. Go talk to them, interact with them, and over a period of time you will get some comfort level with certain people with whom you can have an open conversation. Those are your gurus. And you have to tell, like our Madhva Shastra clearly says, like the way the teacher tests the students also should test the teachers. So like the way we inquire about a school before admitting our children, similarly we have to check the guru, because today the biggest danger we face in the spiritual world is having the wrong gurus, people who are preaching without knowing anything about spirituality. There are people who are preaching and just by their intellect, they're just giving some spur of the moment answers. Those answers may be smart, and the answers may be very exciting, and sometimes even funny, and we may laugh at them, which is fine. It's a viewpoint, but it cannot be taken as a philosophical lesson. Spiritual lessons concern our soul. They do not concern our intellect. They do not concern our body. It goes very deep inside us. So therefore it is very, very important that you pick up the right guru. Right, it is like this. Let us say you have a cold. You could say I've just got a cold, I want to see some doctor. They go to hospital, somebody gives them medicine. I've got a cold, and they give you a medicine. Imagine you have to do an open heart surgery. Will you go to some hospital and go to say meet the first doctor and say, yeah, come on, why don't you do an open heart surgery? No, because it's a very, very deep thing. It is something which requires a lot of expertise. Guru, simply put, is someone who destroys the darkness around that. Gu means darkness, Ru means someone who burns the darkness. So in a dark room, you don't need 100 lights. You just need one light, and it spreads light all around and destroy the darkness. So destroy our spiritual darkness, we need somebody who's a guru. So therefore, and remember one thing, and this is something that we have to be very conscious, irrespective of whom we select as a guru, the person who is going to give us the knowledge is someone who is there inside that guru. He's residing within that guru and giving us that knowledge, who is none other than Krishna himself. That is why we say Krishna Mande Jagat Guru. He is the guru for the entire universe. He is a guru to all the gods. He is a guru to all the gurus. And anybody who gets gurutva is because of him. And that is a great message of Madhvacharya that he has given us. He himself was a great guru. He could have easily propagated that he is God. But what did he prove? I am not God, or rather, he is not God. And he also proved none of us are gods. We are all servants of God. We are all at His service, and He is the supreme Guru. So these were certain thoughts that I thought we should share with you on this eternal journey, which we started almost 15, 16 months back. We have covered several aspects, which are, as I said, mainly coming from the Brahma Sutras, which are a framework to understand the Vedas and get reiterated in the Upanishads and the Mahabharata. That has been the cornerstone of whatever we have presented. Now, have we done with all the topics in Brahma Sutras? Definitely not. There are a lot of other topics that we will be taking up in the future workshops as well. We will address them comprehensively. I know there was a request repeatedly coming from to understand, some concepts which appear to be controversial, which is Tattvamasi and Aham Brahmasmi. When you hear this, what is the correct interpretation of those things? So we will look at those things in the subsequent workshops. There is also a request which has come on the topic of meditation, japa, dhyana. How does one do it? So we'll be conducting specific sessions after this one. So with that, I would like to pause here and take questions. I can see there have been a lot of interactions that are going on.
Sundar, there's one section we were on Trivikrama Panditacharya, where
Yes.
would you cover after taking some questions?
Yeah, I can. We can take that beautiful story, Santosh. Thanks for reminding us.
Right.
Last time
Okay.
also we couldn't cover it, but well, very quickly cover it. I would urge people to read more about it. It's a beautiful part which comes in. Parts are covered in, Sumad Vijaya, as well as which is the biography of Srimadvacharya, as also Vaishtuti. There are some aspects covered there as well. So if you go through the story of Trivikrama Panditacharya, he is born in a very scholastic family. His surname, imagine, is Panditacharya. So someone from the entire lineage, he comes from a series of people who are extremely great scholars in Sanskrit and also in the Advaita philosophy. And he continued his studies. And it was his father who first told him that, look, dear son, we have been studying Advaita philosophy all our lives, but I think there's I do not find certain things accurate. One of the things is that all the scriptures keep talking about God as someone who's got great qualities, whereas Advaita says it's nirguna. So how come I'm not able to sort of dovetail these concepts? So I have not been able to find the answers. So please be in that quest all your life to find out what the right answer is. And unfortunately, soon he passed away. And so therefore, Trivikrama Panditacharya was an eternal quest to learn about Madhva Shastra and to understand perspective. What are the different philosophies wanted to say? And as luck would have it, he was living with his brother. It's a joint family, as we call it. And his name is Shankara Panditacharya. And who was Shankara Panditacharya? I mean, this is how divine luck smiles at you. When he was actually the librarian for Sri Madhvacharya. That means all the books that Sri Madhvacharya had collected when he traveled across the world, he would be the person preserving it. As also the text that Madhvacharya has had written by then, and those were all with his, and so he could find it right at home. But again, he had some hesitation because he was a proponent of Advaita philosophy, Trivikrama Panditacharya. So he would wait for Shankara Panditacharya to sleep every day. And then in the night, he would go and then look at those books and had to quickly, keep them back before his brother woke up because he didn't want to show that he was reading those books. But when he was reading those texts, he got another perspective of Madhvacharya, that saying that God is indeed someone who is full of auspicious qualities. So he cannot be nirguna at all, and all his doubts started to getting cleared in the process. And again, as divine luck would have it, Madhvacharya came to that very place where he was staying for Chaturmasa. That means the 4 months in which saints stay at one place and then propagate the philosophy, typically in the rainy seasons, 4 months. And as it turned out, he got an opportunity to debate with Madhvacharya. What a great opportunity for him! So he came up not to debate, but to have raise all his questions and get them answered. So his purpose was I just want to know the truth. I'm not going to be caught up whether it is Dvaita or Advaita or anything. What is right? What is accurate? And as he was speaking to Madhvacharya for a long period of time, the debate went on for many days. And finally, it was Madhvacharya finally stopped and asked Trivikrama Panditacharya whether he had any more doubts. And slowly and steadily, all his doubts just went away, vanished. And he fell at the feet of Madhvacharya and begged him to take him in as a disciple of his. Madhvacharya, being the kind guru that he was, immediately took him into his tutelage, and on his request wrote several texts after that. One of them is Anuvyakhana, which is a great commentary on Brahma Sutras itself, and which covered all the questions that Trivikrama Panditacharya had been putting to him since then. So that book was of course written for everybody, but on the request of Trivikrama Panditacharya. Now, why this story is very important for us is that if you look at his life, his purpose was to find out the truth, and he constantly strived towards it, not losing sight of that at any stage in his life, learning from every stage, constantly looking for where the truth is. And that is why he got the answers. Of course, as we say, divine luck really smiled at him. But having said that, it would not divine luck would not have smiled at him had he not been seeking the quest for in the quest for truth at all. He would never have come to that stage. So if you sit at home, obviously will not reach the Himalayas. So clearly, I think when you go towards a spiritual purpose, you will be amazed to see how fast God makes big strides towards you and helps you in that journey. And the purpose of the guru is exactly to do that. That's a great story of Trivikrama Panditacharya, who gave us, of course, the great Tattva Pradipa Grantha. He also gave us Harivai Stuti. He composed the Vayu Stuti, for which Madhvacharya wrote the Nakastuti and made it the Harivai Stuti. And of course, one of his biggest gifts to this world was an illustrious son and a lineage, in fact, his son Narayana Panditacharya, who wrote the biography of Sri Madhvacharya himself. Several other granthas have been written by him and his son Vamana Panditacharya, and so on. So he what was one person's quest for a purpose, towards a purpose, I think gave rise to a very very rich lineage of knowledge that we have today. So it's a great story for us to remember that if you are always thinking and wanting to achieve that purpose, somehow that purpose you will realize far sooner than you think. But we have to be at it, we have to be determined, and we have to fight our way through. So that's the story of Sri Trivikram Panditacharya, which I wanted to share. Santosh. We can take some questions. Yes.
Sure. So I request all the viewers to start posting questions so that we can keep taking these questions.
Yeah. So here I think I'm seeing one question, Santosh. If I'm, can I take that? How
Sure,
to
sure, sure.
find how to find a spiritual guru? Rashmi Rao asks us, how can or we share problems with spiritual guru and seek guidance to come out of negative thoughts and choose the right path? I think as we said, finding a spiritual guru, you have to talk to people. You have to talk to, if you visit temples, you visit the mathas, visit all these scholastic centers, you'll see a lot of people who are there. And in today's world, it is very easy to find because it's an online world. So when you listen to certain lectures given by people, for example, Dr. Vyasanagari Prabhanjanacharya, who's being the leading light, guiding light in the Madhvacharya for the youth workshops, reaching out to people like that and discussing your problem, discussing your challenges, right? Some of it may look like very trivial, or some of them might look very personal, which is fine, no problem. You don't have to discuss it in front of everyone. You can discuss that with them one on one, get their guidance. And as I said, we have to be conscious that no matter whom you ask, ultimately it will be God who will be residing in them to give you the solutions to our problems. So in front of a guru, they say, it is normally told in front of a lawyer or your doctor, you should never hide anything. In my opinion, the person from whom you should definitely not hide anything, or any of keep your hold back from asking questions, is actually your spiritual guru. Because If you live all your life with those questions and those anxieties, they will never get solved. But when you ask the question, they will be answered. And the best part is our scriptures have a space and have an opportunity for every question to be answered. If you look at the structure of all our scripture, spiritual granthas, they all start with a question. So there is a lot of importance given to questions. If you don't ask questions, the guru will start asking questions himself and answer it. That is the structure. If you look at Jaitir Tharu or Raghavendra Swamiji or something, they don't take anything for granted. They will always put the question and then answer it themselves, like what is called Purva Paksha and Siddhanta. So therefore, I would really urge Rashmi and everybody else, whoever has this, to find a guru. Again, listen to the lectures of several people, read books of different scholars. Something will connect for you with somebody whom you can then treat him as a spiritual guru and go and definitely do that. So, for whatever reason, you don't have access to anybody in person, no problem. You can always do it online. And if nobody comes to your thing, just go to a temple and pray to God. He is the best guru that we have, and he will guide you towards that getting the right guru.
Right. Thank you. So there's a question from Aisha Parvin, who's a regular viewer of this channel. She's asking, let's say that a sattvic soul is for certain reason trapped in surrounding by tamasic soul. What should he do? Pray Hari non-stop, but sometimes that's practically not possible.
So non-stop may not be practical and may not be possible, but doing to the best of our ability definitely does, Santosh. I
Okay.
think in the quest for perfection, we should not give up excellence, right? Yes, we may not be able to do it all the time, but that does not mean we should give it up and stop doing it at all. Yes, we all have our limitations. We all have our mindsets may be different, and as Aisha says, we are surrounded by people probably who are negative, who are always trying to stop us from doing it. It is perfectly possible, and it happens as well. There are a lot of things that can distract us, but that is a difference between that is a difference between purpose and goal. Goal, you can sort of take a break, but purpose is something that you cannot change. But here is my suggestion, and this comes again from the learning from the Brahma Sutras, which is in the and many stories in Mahabharata. No matter what state of mind you are, right? And Purandaradasa says it so beautifully. He says, Kashtadallirali, Utkrishtadallirali, Yeshtadaru mati kettirali. So he says, you may be happy, you may be sad, but what Yeshtadaru mati kettirali? That means our mind is extremely disturbed. It's not able to focus on anything. And we all go through that state of extreme anxiety, extreme fear, extreme, emotions. Even at that time, our mind should not, at least the least you can do is to take God's name and, you know, sort of to calm yourself down. That is the minimum. God will never put us in a situation when we cannot recite the name of God. So again, one may say, okay, I got very high fever. I could not even recite. Possible. At that time, it's right for us to say, fine, we may not be able to recite loudly or we may not be able to see, but even thinking in your mind for a few moments, one cannot do it all the time, but one can recite it also, or at least for some time. And this is a live example that we have today. Right, sitting right at this place, we had conducted a workshop in the height of the second wave of COVID. Some people had joined us coming from hospitals, and they were in such a bad situation because the doctor had to diagnose them with a very severe case of COVID, and they were in such a weak state, both mentally and physically, that they could not recite God's name at all. They could not do it. But even at that time, they just closed their eyes and listened to some chanting that was going on, Vishnu Sahasranamam on their mobile phones, and miraculously after 2 days, they could muster the courage to be able to face that situation, and they've come out today, and God has been so kind that they are living so healthily. So really, I think the purpose should be not look at this as like a torture. Oh my God, I have to do it all the time. There are moments when I can't do it, which are all practical realities. We have to face them. But what is important is despite that, whatever little we can do, you have to explain. You have to give a, suppose your boss has given you a certain work to be done by a certain day, right? And you're not able to do it. You'll start giving explanations to him about why you can't do it. But one person who does not need to be explained to is God, because he is right inside us. He knows our limitations. He knows what we can do, and all the power we are getting from him. So therefore, his level of kindness is at an all-time high. If God had put a rule book and said that, look, I'll be kind to you only when you follow these rules, imagine where would we have been, right? If we would have gone nowhere. But again, I think it's important to know that we should do to the best of our ability, and we should be true to ourselves. Only we know whether we are giving it the best or not.
Right. Thanks, Sunder. So Jewel is asking, so jivas can also be sattvic or rajasic or mixed. Are they eligible for moksha?
So they will not be eligible for moksha straight away. Only through the karma sadhane they will be eligible for moksha. So the Mishra Jivas will not be eligible. They keep going round and round. They will have happiness sometimes, and they will go through sorrow. So they are Nitya Samsaris, as we call it. So they will be in that constant churn. Why? Because that is their nature. Everything that they pursue, right, will be like that. It is like a student who always covers 70% of the syllabus, right? Will that person get
Yeah,
80% mark? That person can never get 80% because he's covering only 70%.
70%.
He's likely to get some mark which is less than 70%. By definition, they have given up. They do not want to achieve the purity in their understanding of God.
Another question by Ujjwal. So he's asking, is it possible to get initiation or diksha in Madhva Parampara? He is not a Brahmin and don't have any spiritual background to it.
Yes, Diksha can be taken by anybody. Kanakadasa is a classic case. Puranas are full of people, this one which can be done. So, going to a guru and taking the Diksha from a sannyasi is possible for everybody. Kanakadasa is a very glaring example. There are other examples as well, where Kanakadasa went to Sri Vyasaraja and has got the Diksha from Sri Vyasaraja. I think that itself is a Diksha to the power of Diksha. And so, yes, the short answer is yes, it is possible. Please visit Swamiji and take the Dikshata from him. It is everybody is eligible for this.
Uh, Question from Pavmin. Material goals and survival demand a lot of one's time, basically consume time. How can one know when one is focusing too much on material goals?
See, I think materialism is bad when it starts to overpower you, right? That's a very important thing. We should never be overpowered by materialism. Anything that is done, ati sarvatra varjayet, as they say, anything that's overdone is going to cause you harm, right? Materialism important. Obviously, money, materialistic things are important for our sadhana, right? If one does not have food on the plate, how will he do sadhana? It is impossible to do that. So but and that is the big quest that all our gurus have already have given us, and it is very evident to all of us as to from these lives how to make those choices. So don't let anything overtake your senses. When when will you know that it is overdone? Is when you sit and do exactly what we had suggested in terms of your meditation and journaling. If that is keeping you away from that state of seeking that whatever you want. So for example, you want to spend 2 hours reading a grantha or doing some meditation, and let us say your job is frequently coming in the way. First thing is not to resign your job. I think many people make that mistake. The idea is not to resign from the job is to evaluate, am I making some mistake in the way I'm managing my time? That is very fundamental. Once you are convincing that you are you are really utilizing your time well, yet it is coming in the way of your spiritual quest, that is when you have to make the changes, right? And then you have to make a choice, that am I overdoing certain things. I hear that many times. Many people who've gone abroad, they say, look, I'm abroad, I have access to all the content, yet I'm not able to pursue it like the way I want. So they come back to India. They go. Many of them have even given up their professions and done that after a certain stage in life. But whatever it is, I think one should take a balanced view, right? If one should not jump into anything, one should take a balanced view about how important is materialism, how important is spiritualism, right? Our shastras never say you should not make money. You should Our shastras never say that you should not you should not aspire for these things. Yes, all those are desires, and as human beings we have those desires, but those desires should not overcome us so much so that we are prepared to give up anything and everything in that quest for what we want to achieve. There is a balance that we have to strike.
Question from Anand Shinai. What is a better mantra meditation? Sorry, mantra meditation or meditation by focusing on the Lord with closed eyes?
So our scriptures always mandate a mantrika uh, meditation, that is with recitation. But even with closed eyes, you need not uh, move your lips also. You can just recite the name of the god in your mind also. That is also one of the ways in which meditation can be done, but it has to be a mantric meditation only. That means there's a mantra which you get from the guru, and you have to repeatedly say that, like the Gayatri mantra, for example, Vishnu Sahasranam. All these are mantras. So you can repeat that even without reciting it loudly, or even without moving your lips as well. It can be done within your mind. So these are not two questions. You can do it either way. The Shastras prescribe all three methods. Doing it in your mind. Second one, just by movement of the lips. Third one, saying it loudly.
Question from Mukund Vijinder. His children, one is in ninth and another one is in second PUC. Asking how to make them more spiritual.
See, I think first thing is for the children, their parents are their biggest role models. Whatever they do, whatever they learn very fast from their children. So, creating a spiritual environment at home is very very important. So, given that his children are you're already maybe I would imagine 15 to 18 years of age, they will learn a lot by observation, and what you people and what is stocked at home, and what is the environment at home. You don't have to tell them everything. They learn by observation. So if they see a spiritual practice being done at home, and a spiritual way in which we are handling everything, right? So for example, a simple thing, saying at the beginning of the day, you wake up and everybody at the beginning of the day, everybody wakes up and says, look, I want to have a great life today. I will do everything in the service of God. I will go take one more step towards achieving my purpose. And at the end of the day, comes back and says, okay, God. Everybody sits around in front of the God, and says, whatever I did today is a service. Please treat this as a service for you. And if I've made some mistakes, please excuse me, and I apologize for them, but please ensure tomorrow I don't make the same mistake. These two things, what is Prata Sankalpa Gadya and Sarva Samarpana Gadya, of course written by Sri Raghavendra Swamiji, precisely gives us this framework. Now if we don't have time to recite both these gadyas, it is okay, but what is important is to say that I start and end my day with a spiritual thought. If the children can pick up these two things, it is a very big learning for them. And second thing, the thing that God is omnipresent and omnipotent. So there is no situation in which God cannot help you. If there's one lesson that they can learn, it's a very big spiritual lesson for them all their life. So I think slowly reiterating these things, getting them to participate in everything. I think what we do, I think the mistake many parents, modern parents especially, we make is that we don't involve our children in spiritual activities. So let us say there is an activity at home, there's a festival going on at home. The children don't participate, and we don't ask them to participate at all. Why don't you give them some tasks for the day? So, for example, going and getting the flowers from the garden, or buying fruits from the shop and getting them for the festival. Get them involved in the spiritual activity. But why doesn't the whole family come together at the end of the day and do a 10-minute meditation? All of us have to do meditation anyway. So why don't we all do it together? So it's a wonderful way in which the family comes together on a spiritual path. Take them to pilgrimages. Don't leave them behind. Say, oh no, my children, they will not come. We shouldn't pressurize them. No, I think you're failing in that duty because you're not giving them the most important weapon when they get out to the battle of their life, which is spirituality. They can overcome anything if they are spiritual, right? So that is what I would urge, sir, to try and do it. Of course, there are many other things
Yeah.
which we can.
Thanks for that. That's a nice perspective to it. So I have a couple of slides to for the
Uh,
viewers. So I'll
Santosh, I think we've got
cover.
quite a few questions. You may want to look at the slides and then come back and take these
Yes,
questions.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes. So these are the three workshops that has been lined up for this year. The next workshop is on 3rd October, which is on the power of chanting, the japa, dhyana, and tapas. What Sundar was mentioning about, where we will be talking about japa, how to meditate, and what does tapas mean. And moving on 17th November, we have the other perspective of Aham Brahmasmi Tattvamasi. So, as we told, there are a lot of the aspects on Brahma Sutra that is yet to be covered, which will be getting covered slowly in few sessions. On 19th December, we have the habits, the daily habits for an awesome day. Way forward, so we our content strategy has slightly changed. So we've made these changes to make sure the content reaches to our audience in a better way, so that it can be absorbed well. So there are three layers to this content strategy. One is the online live webinars, like the webinars that we have today, which will be a 1 hour webinar, and another set of videos will be 10 to 12 minute videos where we'll be talking about topics which will fit uh, in this 10 to 12, which will not be too elaborate or too short, so that it can be consumed well. And the third category would be a short videos where it can be easily shareable, which can be easily consumed as well. So these are the three uh, structures, I would say, that we've planned out. And some of the topics that we want to further cover, which will be on basically a series, will be on multiple sessions. One will be on Dvaita series, which will be discussing on discussions and understanding of Madhvacharya's core tenets, and then Bhagavad Gita series, understanding God's own words. Upanishad series, where we'll be unraveling the lessons from Upanishads, and on Mahabharata, where we'll be replaying the epics in today's context, and then meditation series. So there'll be we had conducted a meditation class on these were the offline programs that we had prior to COVID. So we want to bring this online as well and conduct some of the meditation classes. And a request to participants, if you have any questions, if you have any topics to suggest us, or register with us, or if you want to give us any suggestions so that we can better this platform, you can write into us at madhvacharya numerical 4 youth at gmail.com. And also follow us, subscribe, like, comment on some of our social media handles, which is Madhvacharya for Youth. We present on uh, available on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, and Twitter. And the next workshop will be on the power of chanting, which is Japa Dhyana and Tapas, which is on 3rd October, which is on Sunday, 3:30 to 4:30. Please make sure you block your calendars so that you are available for all these sessions. Another question from Shreya Rao. So, do we go mad if we do japa more than 1,000 times or so? Is it not advisable to japa beyond a certain limit?
No, so we don't go mad. See, what happens is, I think this is an important question actually. Uh, the the amount of time that we spend on a meditation should be proportionate to the amount of studies that we are doing, right? So otherwise what happens is our mind will be empty. We don't have so many things to contemplate about, right? So for example, I told you about journaling. Journaling should we should spend at least about 10 to 15 minutes. Why don't we spend 3 hours doing journaling? Because our day itself was for 24 hours. 3 hours, we don't have anything. Even if you write every activity that we did, it will not take 3 hours, right? So, like that, imagine journaling is happening in your mind. It has to be proportionate to the amount of studies that you are doing. So, if you are studying for an hour, you know, meditation should be done typically for about 10 to 15 minutes, not more than that, right? Because then it will help you synthesize. Now, what will happen if you do meditation beyond a certain point where you have nothing to contemplate about? Your mind becomes dull. It is proven. This is not somebody's, just as, off the cuff answer. It has to be proportionate to the amount of studies. Our Guru, Shri Vyasankara Prabhanjanacharya, has said this again and again. We have to keep it proportionate to what we do. The same goes with japa also. So when you are doing something like this, for example, you are doing japa, that means you are reciting one mantra again and again. You have to do it, you are contemplating on it. So for to be able to contemplate, you should know what it means. So to understand what it means, you have to read about it. And of course, Gayatri Mantra itself is a field by itself. And if you have read enough about it, you can contemplate on all aspects. It will give rise to certain questions in your mind, which you can get answered. But uh, you should do mantra. And by the way, there are people who have done japa of mantra more than 1,000 times also. So it is not that it cannot be done. But those have to be done by people who are, who are, who have done enough of studies. So it's like this: how much time should one work out in a gym? If that's a question. There are people who are,
Yeah, about 1 hour.
you should ask Nikhil Chopra how many hours he works out in the gym. He will say 4 hours because he's an Olympic gold medalist, right? If we all try to, if an ordinary person tries to work out for 4 hours in the gym, he'll be the nearest orthopedic hospital, right? So I think it's important to realize that, like our body, our mind also has a certain capacity. So slowly, when you increase your meditation from say 5 minutes to 10 minutes to 15, you will come to know at some stage, your mind will start to saturate. That is the time you stop and use that time instead for studies. So very important is studies and meditation. It has to be proportional. But it's a good question, I must say.
Yeah. So that mantra will have a strong anusandana behind each japa. Right, Sundar? Like when you do a lot of japas, you will also have equivalent anusandana to
Correct.
it as well.
Exactly. Exactly.
So Amarnath Rai is asking if japa or chanting is the easiest way or the only recommended technique for attention challenged people of this age.
No, so we should not say that there are attention challenged people only in this age. There were attention challenged people at all, at all times. It was just that the topic of what was distracting them was different. Now, recently we have come across this topic of digital distraction. So we are blaming
Yeah.
everything on digital medium. So before digital mediums came, did people not have distraction? They found something else to be distracted. Why? Because distraction has got nothing to do with anything external. It's an internal distraction which is manifesting itself in the form of seeking new ways in which you want to do something, right? If your mind is calm, your mind is focused, it will not get distracted come what may, right? So it's an internal issue. So today it is digital, yesterday it was television, before that was radio, before that was something else. So mind by nature, as I keep saying, is something which will get distracted. How do you bring it back? That is why you need a technique to bring it back. Otherwise we wouldn't have called meditation technique, right? See, we are born with certain instincts as children. For example, does anybody teach us how to drink milk? Nobody teaches that. It's instinct. The moment the child is born, it knows how to, drink milk from its mother. Does anybody teach? If you look at it, it's born with that instinct. But unfortunately, our mind is born with an instinct to get distracted. That's the construct of our brain. You can't move away from that. So I think the important thing is, coming back to the question. Just wanted to know, japa or chanting is the easiest. So it is not the easiest. It is a tough. It takes its own process, and it is something that is recommended for everybody, not just for the people who are distracted or anything like that.
Okay. The two Gadyas written by Raghavendra Swamigalu can be chanted by women.
Yes, it can be centered by women. It is a very, it is something which sets the purpose for our life. He has set the purpose
Yeah.
for his life, and it can be recited by everybody.
Uh, Prasanna Balaji is asking, these days there are so many distractions due to which we cannot do the right things, even after knowing what is right. How do we overcome this?
See, I think I think that is the topic that we have discussed throughout the workshops, last three workshops. I think the important thing is to be clear what your purpose is and what is distracting you, right? Just being aware that there is a distraction coming your way can be something that can help you. Again, let me come back to my favorite example of the GPS. When you're looking at the GPS in the next junction, it shows red. That means there is going to be traffic. You are aware of this, so there you don't land up and you are not shocked, right? Oh my God, I've got stuck at this place. You knew it. You knew it when long back that when you reach that junction, it is going to be bad. So what do we do every day? When we used to go all be working from office, when you're drawing to the office, you will face some bad junctions. What did we do at that time? We just you
We
know
probably avoid.
knew that and just kept quiet and say, okay, this is a bad junction. I had to plan for it, figure out a nice way, play some nice pleasant music, listen to some good lecture, or do what you can during that period and just calm yourself down, right? If there is no crowd at that junction, there's no clogging, it's your good luck and you sort of move ahead. So similarly, I think what distracts you is going to be very important. And try to see that, for example, you are not, prone to that. So I'll give you an example. For in today's world, since we are working a lot on our computers, it's very and the internet is always on. The tendency is to click on some icon and quickly go away to some other place. You're reading today's news. Suddenly you get one feeds notifications. You get distracted. So best thing is, when you are working on, let us say, your emails, your official emails, or even you're in an official meeting, switch off all notifications. This itself will cut down your tendency to get distracted. But I think if you want to really focus on things, it has to come because of the internal preparation, which is meditation. This reiteration that, okay, this is what is my goal, is very important. And set some realistic goals. Say that for the next 45 minutes, I'm not going to do anything other than finishing this. Mind will keep on coming and telling us. Let us say you're sitting and trying to do your Sandhya Vandanam or meditation. Your mind has got a funny, it plays very funny games with you. It is, what it will tell you, what, reciting Gayatri Mantra is not the only great thing. There are service of mankind. Go out of your home and serve those people on the road some food. That is better than you sitting and doing Gayatri Mantra. The fact is, nobody gives up Gayatri Mantra and serves anybody else. Neither will he do this nor will he do that, actually. So these are mind games that unfortunately our mind plays with us. So you should know how your mind plays those games with you, and very pleasantly, like the way to catch a child trying to steal a sweet from the refrigerator, you quietly catch that distraction and take it away, and then come back to your focus. Keep focusing without getting upset. Your mind will make that habit over a period of time.
Another question. What should one do when someone demeans our spiritual process or purpose? Should one fight back?
So I don't think there is any need to fight back. If there is an opportunity to educate that person, it should be done. One should not give it up. But beyond a certain point, if people have not got understood your perspective, you're not obliged to correct the whole world about it. It's bad luck. Someday God will give them the sense, hopefully, and they will come back to their purpose. See the meaning in what you do. My simple learning in my own life has been that there will be people who will not understand what you're doing, and because they don't understand, they will make fun of that. But that goes for everything. Even if you um, do the right things, you will be prone to ridicule sometimes, and sometimes very unfairly also. So instead of fighting it back, If you keep doing whatever you are doing, they will back off. If you begin to become shaky about things, then they will people will feel, oh, maybe the person not sure. But once they know that you are sure about whatever you are doing, you will be on your way. Read the lives of every great guru in our Matva lineage, or any lineage for that matter. They all faced challenges from everybody, from small minds. But they did not get distracted. Sometimes they educated, sometimes they didn't educate. Because some people don't deserve that education. It's not for everyone. So be very confident, be very sure, and keep going on. Someday, don't be surprised if the same people who are ridiculing you will come back with an admiration and also say, "Hey, can you teach me that also?"
Absolutely. Yeah. So the last question. Uh, so by Puneet Acharya says, I totally feel the truth in our true purpose being in relation to God. So how do we use this purpose?
So I think the thing is to, when we talk about our relationship to God, the purpose therefore is defined by the Brahma Sutra's first Brahma Sutra itself. Athato Brahma Jignasya Hom. So, knowing God, understanding God in his entirety as much as possible. As we know, nobody can understand God entirely, but the little bit that we can understand, the small fraction of that infinite entity that we can understand, will give us actually infinite bliss. Why? Because one by millionth of infinity is also infinity,
Correct.
right? So that infinity has the power to give us infinite bliss. So to study more about God, to learn about God, and to serve humanity as though we are serving God is the way forward, right? So God will not come in front of us. We don't deserve that instantly, but God will manifest in front of us in many ways. So for example, our parents are manifestation of God in many ways. God was in them, and that is why we were born in the first place. They have given us matritva and pitrutva, taken care of us. How can a human being take care of somebody? How can a human being give birth to another human being? Impossible. It wouldn't have happened without the grace of God. So, therefore, taking care of our parents, taking care of our elders, studying the Madhva Shastra, supporting the study of Madhva Shastra. Let us say for some reason you're not able to do it at all. Fund and sponsor some of the granthas, which are, we've got thousands of granthas which are unpublished. 50 years from now, we will not have those granthas because they would have disappeared. Many research institutes are struggling for funds. Many scholars are willing to put their months and years of hard work to print them. Support those causes. Support a student who is studying Madhva Shastra. Support a poor student. Donate a blood. Do whatever you want, but with one central theme. Only one central theme, that this is a service to God. It is no different. You're donating blood. It is no different from doing Abhisheka to the God early in the morning. That should be the spirit. You're opening your laptop. Yes, that is your profession. You have to do it. When you're opening the laptop, don't think you're opening the laptop. You're thinking you're opening the the, the samputa, or the God, the box in which the God is kept. And whatever I'm doing today, maybe I will not have that thought throughout the day, but at least at the beginning of the day, when I'm starting my work and ending my work, I'm thinking that, okay, today is my 8 hours of service, not to my company, but to God. I think if you go with that spirit itself, it is a very high spiritual relevance. Our Shastras never say give up your life, give up your family, give up your work, give up your vacation. Never ever says that. Nobody gave up their lives to do whatever they were doing. Janaka was a great king. Arjuna was a warrior. He wanted to lead the life of a sannyasi. Did Krishna allow him to leave it? He said, no, you are a
Yeah.
kshatriya. You have to fight your battle. That is where your moksha will be. So let us say there is an office. There is a person who is the janitor. There is a person who is a security professional. There is a manager. There is a CEO of the company. There is a finance person. There is an HR person. It's a school. There's a teacher. There's a principal. All will be paid their salaries only when they do their job. Imagine the principal of the college says, no, I am not interested. I will be sitting in front of the Saraswati idol which is there and pray to her. No. That's not what she's supposed to do. So therefore, whatever profession, whatever vocation, whatever life we all have is all a gift of God. We can make that life a spiritual life, or we can make it a wasteful life. One can be in a temple, the working like a pujari, but with zero spiritual quotient. He's not at all working, doing his work with a spiritual mindset, but just treating it like any other job. Then even doing a puja for 24 hours will not get him what
Yes.
happiness it will be. Whereas a person who is cleaning, sweeping the roads in front of our house is doing, thinking that he or she is cleaning God's world. That is the most spiritual thing, and that's what our shastras repeatedly talk about.
Thank you, sir. Another brilliant perspective towards life. Any final thought before we wrap up this session?
No, I think it has been a very gratifying journey for all of us at Madhvacharya for the youth. There are many volunteers who work tirelessly to make this work happen. There is Santosh who conducts this program, and then there is Prithvi and Santosh. They are the think tank of the organization. There are Varun and Anil, our leaders, who are leading this workshop, and there are many other people who are behind the scenes in this workshop, working tirelessly to make this happen. So when we look at the 124th workshop, it gives us a lot of happiness. But we are just starting now on a very long journey, and this is just the beginning. As Santosh has already shared all the things that we want to do in the next few months, we should be able to launch in the next 4 to 5 months and be ready to provide more content for people. So with this, I think we have covered a lot of aspects that we wanted to from a Brahma Sutra perspective, and there will be always be other topics that we'll keep adding. So the next month workshop is on japa, dhyana, and tapas, of very important aspects. We've been able to get some very good content compiled by some great masters on this topic. So let us look at that workshop very eagerly on the 3rd of October. And thanks to everyone who has participated in this. Thanks also to people who will watch this video. We know that runs to thousands of people who watch it later over the next 15 to 20 days, and sometimes it goes on for years together. So thanks to all of you, and special thanks to Santosh for being here. Thank you, everyone.
Thanks for the thanks for your time.